I'm going to show you how I get my worship vocals from sounding like this.
Let your heart sing out and tell him you love him. Don't make it perfect, just let it be honest. He can use anything, sit back and watch him. There's no waste at the altar.
To sounding like this.
Lay your broken dreams at the altar, and every victory at the altar. Fear and anxiety cannot live here. There's no waste at the altar. Let your heart sing out and tell him you love him. Don't make it perfect, just let it be honest. He can use anything, sit back and watch him. There's no waste at the altar.
So let's go ahead and dive in. And so the first big thing that I encourage everybody to do when they're trying to get that big worshipful sound is record stacks. What I mean by stacks is you're recording multiple takes of each voice. When we go into the studio for any of our albums, we typically record at least 3 stacks of each voice. As you can see in this session, we have 3 stacks of soprano, 3 stacks of alto, and 3 stacks of tenor. The difference from going from 1 stack to 3 is so big. Let's take a really quick listen at what that could sound like. This is just 3 stacks, no effects, nothing, just 3 voices.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the
Oh, here, turn that on. Sorry. Turn that on, here we go.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the altar.
And I'll give them credit. I'll give them credit. They sound really good right off the bat. They're good singers. But listen to the difference that happens when you add all 3 stacks into it. And this is no reverbs, no processing, really just really light EQ. But take a listen to the difference that happens just by adding stacks.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams
Really
at
big,
the
all of a
altar,
sudden becomes really
and
big.
every victory at the altar.
And that's just
Fear and
3 stacks
anxiety
of every voice.
cannot live here.
I've heard of people doing a little bit more. I've heard of people doing 1 so they can pan hard left and hard right. It's really preference. I like to do 3, and I could do 1 to the left, 1 to the right, and 1 more down the middle. And while we're on that topic, the way I like to do it, I like to do, instead of everything hard left and hard right, I'll do things a little bit more like a wall in front of you. As the listener, I want to hear a wall of audio instead of everything just being on the outer extremes. So that means my sopranos, I'm putting on the outside of the group. My altos, I'm putting inside of the sopranos. And my tenors are standing essentially the middle of the group, if I'm thinking about it that way.
The altar,
You can kind of
come
see
lay
that
your broken
18
dreams
left,
at
18 right,
the
27,
altar,
28,
and every
hard left, hard
victory at the altar. Fear and anxiety.
Once we have the 3 stacks in there, I will go in and I will process each individual channel by themselves. And that's really simple, but that looks something like this. What I'll put on each channel, each of these channels, the 9 stacks, yeah. Each of these channels will have an EQ and a tune. In this case, it's auto tune. I really like the Pro Q. Not doing anything crazy, just cutting off up to about 130. There's really not a whole bunch living.
The altar, come
Let's take a listen to this one, soprano 1.
The altar, come lay your
You can kind of see there's not much living down here anyways, but room noise, so I'm cutting that off. Making a little dip where this is getting a little bit of a buildup in bigger parts.
No waste at the altar.
And then same thing in this spot, cutting right there.
You love him. Don't make it perfect.
Nothing crazy.
Just let it be honest.
Nothing crazy. And I'm doing almost the exact same thing to all of these. As I just click through, you can kind of see they're all doing the same thing. Yeah, all the way down to tenor. They're all with the same two plugins, a EQ and a tune. If you want to take a quick look at how I tune songs in D flat, I will always put it to a major key. Unless it's some kind of 1 or 2 notes out of tune, we'll get creative with how we do that, but most of worship music has 1 key. Therefore, we put it in the key. Tuning speed, roughly 30, depending on the song and how much we need to do. This can roll, like a faster poppier, more songs, or more poppy songs, we'll push it to like 20. It can roll back to 50. I find 30, 35 is roughly a good flex tune. And humanize, nothing crazy, but you can see the settings. Each of them are roughly the same, depending on the voice and what I heard as we're passing through. Once we're past the individual processing of each channel, I move on to processing each of the voices. So each of the tenor, the alto, and the soprano. And I want to treat each of those groups as one entity. So it's really like a matter of the different levels of processing. So you have your individual channel processing, then it moves up to group processing. And I think about each of the voices or each of the groups as their own thing. So in this case, this is where I add effects. This is where I'll add like verb and delay if need be. You can kind of see it here. If I power on these things here, I'll go here. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. So one thing that Ableton is really good at, or really cool at, is the way it allows you to manipulate and have effects. One really cool thing about Ableton is their effects rack. Their effects rack is something I think is like a secret weapon of Ableton, and I really love using it. The way it kind of just stacks things and makes things, the workflow of it's really cool. The way I use it, I have a dry signal, which I just do like some compression and some EQ on, some heavier or some more compression and some more EQ. And then I'll have a verb that's running in parallel, and I'll have a delay that's also running in parallel, and I'll merge all those together. So in my dry channel here, I will do a couple things. I'll have this glue compressor. This is Ableton stock glue compressor, and I'll just run it. You can kind of see all that's happening is a couple dB of dancing. And remember, this is processing all 3 voices of the soprano at the same time. So you can just see a couple dB of dance, nothing crazy. And I'm boosting the makeup to kind of make up that gain loss. But nothing out of this world. The next cool thing is this. This is like a multi-band compressor a stock one that Ableton has. It's high band, mid band, low band. You can kind of see the thresholds for these. I got this one set to start at 5.6. The mid band starts in between 200 and 500 or 5K. And once again, each of these is just doing a couple dB here and there. Nothing crazy. It's just kind of slowly bringing in the dynamic range and the frequency spectrum there. So nothing's peaking out, nothing's sticking out too hard. And then I have at the end of that dry chain is just another EQ, knocking down a couple of the spots. Not like, once again, all of this is nothing crazy. Nothing crazy is going on. Nothing super hard, no crazy EQ curves, nothing like that. Just enough to kind of slowly carve out space for everything. The verb I use in parallel, and I like the Valhalla vintage verb, this thing. I use this SP pop vocal on this one. You can kind of see the settings here. It's like a medium delay. Sounds really good. Sounds really good. The mix will be all the way up. Because I am running it in parallel, I am blending it with the dry signal. I'm blending it with the dry signal, so you want this to be all the way up. If you put this on an individual channel themselves, then you would want that to come back down to like whatever you feel appropriate. But because it's running in parallel, the mix will be all the way up, and that way you can just go in here and raise the volume. I have it set to a macro, so this right here will raise and lower the amount of verb happening on that individual channel. So really, if I wanted to control this, I can do this. Sorry. I can do that. I can just raise and lower the verb. I like to see all this stuff. I don't know why. In this case, I have a delay. On this one, I was using the H delay. Actually, I wasn't using it, now that I'm looking at it. It's muted. I guess at some point I thought it might sound good, but I ended up not using it. But that's there. In this song, it wasn't being used, but it's an option. I usually run with a dry chain, verb, and then some kind of delay or echo, depending on the song and what I'm needing. And once again, each of these will be roughly the same. The compression amount will be slightly varied depending on how hard or how bright or harsh or loud, whatever, each of the voices individually are. Like in this case, my alto.
The altar, and every victory at the altar.
Roughly the same. I'm looking for dancing a little harder, but nothing way different. Nothing way different. And yeah, and that same thing happens for a tenor.
And every victory at the altar, fear and anxiety cannot live here. There's no way.
I'm thinking, thought process, as I get lower in frequency, meaning my tenors are going to obviously have be more bottom heavy than my soprano and my alto. Therefore, what I'm looking for as far as how much bottom end I want to let through increases as I go through here. So I don't want, no, not that, sorry. This.
I'm
only looking for a couple dB of compression down here. Same thing for here.
Fear and anxiety cannot live.
And it's all to taste. It's all to taste. If you use these concepts, just blend them into taste, see how you feel, turn them on, turn them off. But yeah, when they're all stacked together with all of their individual effects, sounds really good. So once again, let me show you A and B. Boom. 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 No effects whatsoever, just the individual channel processing.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the altar, and
there's that, and then with all of the effects.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the altar, and every victory at the.
And I'd use maybe a little bit less verb, and it all depends on how it sounds with the song. So the verb can go to taste. I like this because you can individualize how much verb the soprano gets versus the alto. If I want the sopranos to kind of feel like they're farther away, I can add more verb. If I want the altos to feel closer, which is typically how I do it. The sopranos I always feel like are right in your face, regardless of whether you want them to be or not. I feel like the sopranos become the easiest thing to hear. So in my mixing, I like to push the sopranos slightly farther back in the mix with verb, and then bring almost like a V shape where my tenors are standing front and center, my altos just outside of them and like 1 foot back, and then my sopranos 1 foot behind the altos and out to their right and left. I hope that makes sense. But that's how I think about it. So the last thing that I do is once each of these channels, or once each of these groups has their respective effects on them and their processing, I will affect the entirety of the group, meaning all 9 stacks. So I don't want this to behave as 9 individual singers who are all doing their own individual thing. I want this to behave as one sound. Very similar to how you would process a drum set, where it's not just a bunch of individual pieces, it's all one cohesive piece that needs to sound like one instrument. That's the same way I view vocals and BGVs. I want them to all sound like one cohesive piece. So I will take a couple last things here and I will group them all together, and I'll process them by throwing on some EQ, a multi-band, another glue compressor. This thing is really good just a stock thing from Ableton. And this, to me, secret sauce. The UAD Pool Tech, oh my goodness. This thing right here will take your vocals from a level 5 to a level 10 almost immediately. Some of this. You can kind of hear what each of them are doing. Boom.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the altar, and every victory.
Just pulling on some mid-range. I felt like it was building up a little bit here.
Fear and anxiety cannot live here. There's no waste at the altar. Let your heart sing out and tell him you love him.
Pushing up a little bit of that mid-high.
This
might be a lot, actually.
He can use anything, sit back and watch him. There's no waste at the altar. There's no waste at the altar.
I like that.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams
Couple
at
dB
the altar, and every
compression right there. Nothing crazy once again.
Let's take
a listen to this one.
Cannot live here. There's no waste at the altar.
I'm not even doing anything crazy here. There might be a lot of boost.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the altar.
It just brings out so much like clarity in the voice. That one thing. That's probably honestly one of my favorite plugins. Is this UAD Pool Tech.
The altar, come lay your broken dreams at the altar, and every victory at the altar.
Almost dull.
Fear and anxiety cannot live here. There's no waste at the altar. Let your heart sing out and tell it.
So good. But yeah. So remember, it's all about individual processing. First process these individual channels, EQ, some tune. Then I go to the group, the tenor group, the alto group, the soprano group, each get their own. And that's where I do the dry, the verb, and delay if I need it. And then from there, I group them all the groups together. And I do some last minute EQ, some compression, and one more, the last thing, the Pool Tech, the EQ, that boosts a little bit of the top end, and it kind of just all sits together. And that's what it sounds like at the end. Well, that's everything. If you have any questions, write them in the comments. Let me know. If you'd like to see something else, if you'd like to see another content or another piece of information covered, let me know. I'm trying to do as many of these videos and get out information. I always tell people when I meet them, whatever information I have, I want you guys to have. So if you have any ideas for future videos, just let me know. I'd love to make those things happen. Until next time, see ya.